Good evening, Southeast Texas. Momentarily, we'll be updating you on Invest 99L in the Southern Caribbean as it treks towards the Gulf of Mexico as this weekend unfolds. More coming up on 12 News. Stay tuned. Good evening, Southeast Texas. We'll update you momentarily on Invest 99L. As you can see, it has a very good probability of becoming a tropical depression or named storm within the next 48 hours to 5 days. Pretty good bet that this is going to continue to head towards the Gulf of Mexico as we work on in to say this weekend. Friday, it could be over the Yucatan Peninsula and continuing to move towards the northwest. Right now it's moving to the west and again starting to get better organized as it continues to move into the Western Caribbean coming up over the next day or so. Again, an 80% probability over the next 5 days that this will become a depression or named storm as it heads towards the Yucatan Peninsula and then into the southwest or central Gulf of Mexico. Looks like Sunday and maybe Monday later, heading towards the central Gulf of Mexico. If you're just joining us, updating you on the very latest on Invest 99L. Good potential that this is going to be at least a named storm, possibly a hurricane, as we head on into, say, maybe Monday night into Tuesday. I will say that the modeling is trending towards the east, maybe over towards Louisiana. Some new data coming in, updates as hurricane hunters are expected to go in tomorrow and drop all kinds of instrumentation, and that data that's collected then goes into the computer model. So we ought to have a little better idea maybe by this time tomorrow night, a little more certainty as far as whether or not it'll be a Texas or Louisiana storm or the northwest Gulf of Mexico. A lot of uncertainty right now. It has slowed down, moving west-northwest at 16 miles an hour. And you can see disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. But again, we have noted on visible satellite that there is a weak circulation. Winds are at 35 miles an hour. It's not very far from becoming a depression. Could be a named storm within the next 48 hours, as you saw, as this continues to move off towards the west and northwest. Steering is the big headache right now. The question is, will this high be strong enough to keep it further to the west? Right now, it's not looking like that. So the good news for Texas, maybe that this will head towards Louisiana. I don't want to wish it on anybody, but it's trending towards Louisiana. Unfortunately, they had, 4 or 5 storms last year, and they may add another one if things continue with an easterly trend. But again, this is very early until the hurricane hunters go in. I'm gonna rest my argument as far as this goes. But again, things are trending over towards Louisiana. You can see the weakness in the upper levels developing between 2 high pressure cells over towards the southeastern U.S. and also over towards the Four Corners. That other model did not have as strong a high over towards the Four Corners. If that high was a bit stronger and ridged down into Texas, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It would be probably going underneath the high over towards Mexico, but that is just not the case. As you can see, when we talk about a weakness aloft, that's what this is right here. This is the weakness aloft. High pressure over towards the southeast and a high pressure cell over towards the Four Corners area. In between, it's the valley. If you look at hills and valleys, think of a high as a hill, and the valley is right in through the Sabine River, East Texas and Louisiana. So that's most likely where it'll go. It's just basically a shove match on where exactly which high is going to be stronger. And as you can see, there has been a significant shift over towards Louisiana. This is the very latest data that's coming in. And again, we don't want to let our guard down in this kind of situation. It's very early. Until those hurricane hunters go out there, these models could shift left to right. But the trend has been for a lot of what we call the deterministic modeling, the single runs, the scary models that you see with just one storm. We want to see a lot of lines. That gives us a higher confidence as far as where it goes. Because if you just post a graphic on Facebook and it shows one storm or one track, is it a good track or is it a bad track? I don't know, and you don't either. The case is you want to go with ensembling. That is the way to go, because then you could start to see some good tracks and bad tracks as far as differencing as far as initial conditions. But you can see there are more lines over Louisiana than Texas right now. This is brand new. This coming in, and as you can see, the center line is over towards Louisiana, over towards our east. Let's say this heads over towards Lafayette, or maybe over towards Morgan City. Won't get much here in the Triangle or in southeast Texas. But if it's over towards Galveston or maybe Sabine River, obviously we would have worse conditions. Again, we do not want to wish this on anybody, and we're hoping that this does not form, but that's where we're at right now. Water temperatures are concerning to me because this adds credence to the potential that this is going to be a hurricane. Also, looking at some of the shear data, the upper level shear is going to be fairly low with high pressure over it, so there's going to be good ventilation. Water temperatures, look at that, 87, 88, and 89 degree water temperatures in the Louisiana and southeast Texas coastal waters. So it's going to have a lot of heat energy to use, low shear. I don't see much reason why this should not be a hurricane at landfall, wherever that may be, from maybe the upper Texas Gulf Coast to Louisiana at this time. So if you're joining us, let's bring you up to date. Again, good chance that this is going to become a named or a depression or named storm, maybe as quickly as in the next 48 hours, a 50-50 shot and an 80% probability in a 3 to 5 day outlook as this heads generally towards the west and then begins to turn northwest around that high. Could be at the Yucatan around maybe Friday and enter the Gulf of Mexico Saturday, maybe even into Sunday. Again, water temperatures are very warm, low shear, and good chance this will continue to intensify once it becomes a depression. Again, it's moving west-northwest at 16. Earlier, it was moving at a fast pace off to the west at 22, so it slowed down, and the winds are at 35 miles an hour. So lots of heat energy, particularly in the northwestern Caribbean and in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. The modeling continues to show a high weakening over Texas and building over towards the southeastern U.S., adding to the argument that it's going to be a Texas or Louisiana storm. And this is a different model showing, again, a weakness over Texas and Louisiana. So again, it's very early until we have a clear center of circulation. I don't want to let my guard down one iota as the modeling continues to shift slowly off to the east over towards Louisiana. That's the very latest as far as Invest 99L. Do we have any questions?
First one from Christina. How slow is this moving? Does it look like it's going to stall and strengthen?
Is it in the Gulf of Mexico, or does she mean after landfall?
I think in general, because you had mentioned that it looked like it was slowing down, she was asking.
Slowing down. Right now, it's, as you can see, moving west-northwest at 16 miles an hour, Christina. The deal is that I've seen some people worried about a Harvey-type event, and with Harvey, it was a different animal. There was a trough of low pressure over the Central Plains, and that allowed it to basically stall and meander for a week, and you know what happened. I don't see that scenario here. There is no trough that would slow it down. I think this is going to move on towards the north by, say it comes in on, say, Tuesday in Louisiana somewhere, or southeast Texas. It could be up into northern Louisiana, northern Texas, maybe by within 24 hours. So this is going to move. I'm pretty confident this is not going to stick around for a while. I think it will be moving northwest whenever it moves into the northern Gulf of Mexico, maybe 8 to 12 miles an hour. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Misty wants to know, when do you think we'll get a more official track?
Well, that comes when the plane, the hurricane hunters go out and investigate that, and that's going to happen, I believe, tomorrow afternoon. They have a plane scheduled for recon, and what happens is that we have weather stations all over the ground. They measure temperature, dew point, wind speed, wind direction, all those good information all over the ground, and that data goes into our forecast models. A lot of times when the weather comes from Dallas into the southeast Texas or Louisiana, we do very well in our forecast. But that's what makes it so tricky on the Gulf of Mexico. When the weather comes from the southeast, it's tough for modeling because there's a lack of data, not as much data. That's why the planes have to fly out there and drop weather stations that measure temperature, dew point, wind speed, wind direction, all that information. So they go into the storm and they drop all these weather stations all throughout the storm, and that data goes into the hurricane hunters because there's only so many buoys out there that measure temperature, wind speed, wind direction, all that data to go into the modeling. So that's why they have to do it. So once the plane goes out, then you can see some shifting in the modeling, and that may occur tomorrow. So until that happens, don't want to let your guard down. But I think we'll have a much better idea once that plane goes in, if they don't cancel it tomorrow, maybe by this time tomorrow night, and a much better idea coming up on, say, Friday morning as far as a pretty good track as far as this goes.
Several people, including Dane, asking, is this anything like Laura?
Intensity forecasting, let's just put it this way. There's higher skill on where the storm is going to go. There's less skill or accuracy, if you will, on intensity forecasts. Look what happened with Grace last week. It was only expected to go into as a Cat 1 or 2, turned out to be a 3. So surprises are possible in intensity. I think this is definitely, well, I won't say definitely, but I do think this is going to be a hurricane. Could it be a major hurricane? There's the potential. And we'll just leave it at that.
David asks, do you think this will be a big rainmaker?
Because I think it's going to move fairly decently, I don't think it's going to be a catastrophic rainfall event. I think wherever this, to the right of where the center makes landfall, anywhere from maybe 4 to 8 inches, a foot of rainfall possible. Sometimes we do that in an afternoon here, and it doesn't diminish it any bit, but I don't see 40 inches of rainfall out of this.
Let me see here.
We're going down all the lists of all the comments and questions in Facebook right now.
Yeah. Had someone asking about the spaghetti models here. Can you go over again what that is? Because it's not an accuracy track. These are just the different models,
right.
Correct?
These are different models, and they all have different opinions like people, and they all show a possible trek. And what this new approach to forecasting storms does is that it gives meteorologists confidence in their forecasts, okay? These are what we call outliers. Probably not going to go towards the Florida Panhandle. It could, but it's probably not. It could go to Corpus Christi. Thought it would do earlier this week. It's probably not. So you want to go with what we call consensus, the center line. And that would be maybe the Sabine River over to maybe New Orleans, Terrebonne Parish. That is the center, or where most of the lines are. So that's Louisiana is what this is saying right now. But you can't discount these outliers either. So this ought to make us in Southeast Texas feel a little better as this continues to trend towards Louisiana. I got family over in Southwest Louisiana, so I'm concerned, and we don't want to wish that on anybody. But that is, the modeling is showing more of a Louisiana scenario from what we're looking at right now. And again, once that plane goes out tomorrow, now, if you live in Southeast Texas and watching this doesn't mean it's over with. Let's see what the plane does and how the models respond after getting that data into the models before you write this off. But this is, again, very early, so that's, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But I think we'll have a much better idea once that plane goes out tomorrow. And again, once that plane goes out tomorrow, now, if you live in Southeast Texas and watching this doesn't mean it's over with. Let's see what the plane does and how the models respond after getting that data into the models before you write this off. But what we're looking at right now.
Got a couple of people asking, like, what's the nasty side of the storm? Can you go into what the clean and dirty is and what that means?
Clean and dirty side of the storm. Let's say 98% of the time, you want to be on the west side of the storm. Most of the time, you see a big reduction in winds and rainfall on the clean side of the storm. Let's say the center makes landfall at Holly Beach. Okay, so if you're in Port Arthur or the Bolivar Peninsula, that's the clean side. But if you're over towards, say, Cameron, that would be the dirty side of the storm. That would be the onshore flow. Because remember, with low pressure, counterclockwise swirl, and the onshore or dirty side to the east of where the center makes landfall is where the strongest winds and the highest storm surge are most of the time. Look what happened with Delta. That was what we call an asymmetric storm. There was a trough of low pressure, a little disturbance coming in, and that helped sustain those winds to where we actually saw worse weather on the west side, the clean side of the storm with Delta, than we did with Laura. Port Arthur saw worse winds with a weaker storm, Delta, than they did with Laura, which is interesting. You don't see that too often, but we did it here.
Sort of a quick follow-up. Weren't we on the clean side of Rita, someone's asking?
We were. We didn't get the 130 plus mile an hour winds that southwest Louisiana did. But that center, the eye, if you will, came in over towards Holly Beach, Johnson Bayou, and it went over towards the Sabine, and that's why Orange County, Newton County, the Lakes area saw a lot worse weather than, say, over towards Winnie and over towards Cameron, or I should say over towards Chambers County. It all depends on the exact track of the center of circulation, and you don't want to be on the center of circulation close to the eye, wherever that tracks inland and to the right of the eye. That's the worst of the weather, obviously.
You said the hurricane hunters are heading out there to get information. Was it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I believe, yes.
What time are they supposed to be coming back?
Don't press me on that. I'll have to look again. I do remember seeing that in the discussion. If you Google or search for hurricane hunters plan of the day, then there's a discussion from the National Hurricane Center that basically tasks these planes to go out, I believe from Biloxi, to investigate those systems. I'll do that later for the 10 o'clock show. I don't remember it right now, but that's the plan of the day. Hurricane hunters is what you want to search for.
All right, and what's the just projected landfall date?
I think it could be as early as, say, Monday evening to maybe Tuesday afternoon, judging the modeling. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. Any other questions? All right. If you're just joining us, let's just give you a quick update. We have a tropical wave. It's Invest 99L, and it looks better organized than it was 24 hours ago. It's moving to the west at 16 miles an hour with winds of 35 miles an hour. And let me just show you the modeling. The trending towards this ensemble modeling is towards Louisiana. Again, it's very early until a center of circulation or depression forms and the hurricane hunters go out, then you don't want to write this one off. But for southeast Texas at least, it's looking a little better than it did earlier today. Hey, we'll have the very latest coming up tonight at 10 p.m. Hope to see you there. Thanks so much for joining us on this very special Facebook and YouTube update from 12 News. Have a good evening.